Assassin's Creed Shadows is an evolution for the franchise, with many elements being rebuilt from the ground up. The team embraced this as an opportunity to take accessibility to new levels, with franchise firsts like audio-described cinematics, powerful remapping allowing a choice of hold, press, double press for each action, and greatly upgraded subtitles with better color modifications, speaker directions, conversation log, and speaker emotion tone tags. We'll talk about that in a minute. Screen narration now goes beyond menu itself to cover many HUD modules and time-sensitive elements. The HUD is highly configurable, letting players toggle every element individually or through presets and adjust opacity, size, and contrast. Stealth and combat each have 4 separate difficulty settings, and combat can be simplified to a single input instead of multiple buttons or complex combos. Guided and canon modes remove blockers to exploration and narrative 2, and there's a range of extra audio cues with an audible glossary to increase independence for players with sight loss. Bringing together efforts from many Ubisoft teams around the world, all working to ensure as many people as possible are able to enjoy everything the game has to offer. Now, if you're brand new to this sort of category, or brand new to the innovation and accessibility of the Game Awards, something you may not know is that Ubisoft is often nominated in this category. They have only won once out of the 5 years that this category has been around. This might be the second time, who potentially, if Assassin's Creed Shadows wins overall, but they are usually nominated heavily in this category because of the growth of accessibility that they have done since literally going back as far as 2018, when the accessibility really started to be able to be pushed forward from within Ubisoft and having a team dedicated to accessibility. Now, what did Assassin's Creed Shadows do that innovated or that did better than other games? Well, one is that it does actually tie into Ubisoft in general, because Ubisoft, all their teams have been innovating and building out their tools for accessibility across all franchises for the past, 7 years now at this point, 8 years now. And a lot of this is accessibility crosses over franchises. What it may end up in Far Cry may end up in Assassin's Creed, or even recently in Star Wars Outlaws. If you played Star Wars Outlaws, Assassin's Creed Shadows, and actually kind of recognize that there's some accessibility options or settings that are similar to each other, that's not a coincidence. That is on purpose. And what Assassin's Creed Shadows did for the Assassin's Creed franchise is made it the most accessible game within that franchise, including the having a proper screen reader that does read elements on within the gameplay itself. And it's not the most accessible open world game that there is. We have yet to be able to kind of have a fully accessible open world yet, but there are a lot of improvements in it. There are audio cues to be able to help you direct you where to go, because basically whenever you move if you have say for instance an object or a point of interest that you've highlighted or you've targeted in your map, and it's up on, and you have it on the compass. If you notice and you have screen reader turn on, if that point of view icon is in the center of the compass, it will read off the objective that you're pointed to, and it will tell you exactly how far it is away from the player. And when you have a guided mode turned on with your horse, it will actually follow the path towards that marker. So it also does help a little bit with audio navigation. It's not the best, but it did push the franchise and the industry forward in trying to be able to make open worlds a lot more accessible. And yes, there are a lot of customization options for stealth and for combat, making it simpler, being able to only just push one button in combat instead of multiple combos. Ubisoft has been very good at being able to add that. It does have the ability to be able to turn one button into multiple actions depending on how you push that button. It will 3 actions per button, basically. You can remap a button to an action, say for instance, we'll just, as an example, you can remap dodge to just a toggle. You can also remap crouching to a hold, and you could maybe even have parry being a double tap, all on the same button. If you choose B on the controller, you can have a single tap for crouch, single tap for dodge, double tap for crouch, a hold for crouch, and a double tap for parry. You can have that all on the same button, and depending on how dexterous your hand can be, you could be able to accommodate all 3 of those on a controller or even on mouse and keyboard. What that does is that allows you to to remap buttons on a controller, so you don't have to use all buttons on a controller. You could just remap. If you can remap 3 actions per one button, it eliminates having to be able to move your hand from one side of the controller to the other, or having to be able to purposely, especially on a controller, use every single button on that controller, which can be difficult for motor disabled players. Another thing that they basically had mentioned is the speaker emotion tone tags in the subtitles. Oftentimes for cognitive disabled players, the tone that is presented, they may not understand, sort of based off of potentially an actor's performance, or just based off the dialogue itself, how they're presenting that tone. And because it's part of deaf and hard of hearing, this also does help for deaf and hard of hearing players as well. When a player is talking very sarcastically, it will put beside their speaker name in brackets sarcastic. And that tells a deaf and hard of hearing player, and also those with cognitive disabilities, the ability to be able to know how that line is being presented if they cannot hear or comprehend how that actor is portraying that particular line, or how they're acting to that particular line. So that is what the tone, the tagging is, and it's pretty much for every single line, I think, of dialogue that is subtitled. And also, it is one of the first open world games and the first Assassin's Creed game to be able to include audio descriptions for its cinematics. That is something that not every game in this category has done before, but it is something that is still innovating and pushing the boundaries for accessibility in the industry.